from heal themselves. And we have tried it. If we could give you a digital course and that would just heal you, we would do it. If hamburgers, we would eat well done hamburgers and that would transform you, we would sell hamburgers, right? Like, here's the reality. Humans are biologically built for connection. And so some of the trauma that you experience was stuff that you had in perceptions of yourself. Some of the trauma that you experienced was with another person, like a caregiver, a parent, and some of that was at the level of group. And so if you think about trauma this way, it's there was something that created overwhelm, stress, anxiety in the system, and there had to be a response because the sensitive child feels so much. It's called energetic signaling. And even if you don't consider yourself a sensitive person, trust me, every child is born to energetic signaling. And if you're born into it, that means when you're an adult, guess what? It still works that way. It hasn't changed. And so there had some event happened. There was too much energy coming at the system. The system had to go into defense, like some kind of lockup to protect the system. Because if too much energy hits a small child, it would literally kill them. Okay, so this is the intelligence of our body. And then this is the beginning of formation of identity, of personality, of ego. And so our conditioning is stuff that is given to us from our cultures, from our religions, our societies, our governments, our schools, people that we deem in authority, our parents, of course, right? Like all these things form and shape these ideas that we're in. And so then we're very locked into our conditioning, okay? And because of that lock into our conditioning, it makes it very difficult to heal because we see everything from the perspective of that healing. So I want you to recognize that most people, when you ask them, like, where are you? Like, where do you experience the world from? They will point to here, like somewhere behind the eyes, okay? This is interesting to note because in spiritual circles, we call this local or localized awareness. It means that it's not actually where your awareness is. You've just been conditioned to bring your awareness here and localize it behind your eyes and experience the world through your conditioning and through the conditioning of your five senses. We also call this the ordinary mind or the conditioned mind. So for healing to occur, this is what needs to happen. We need to learn how to unlocalize and come out of our ordinary conditioned mind into a non-ordinary, non-conditioned mind. Let that sink in for a second. This is an altered state of consciousness that's actually very easy to enter once you figure it out, and then you can learn how to get there and actually spend more and more of your time. And if you read any spiritual texts, like Michael Singer's Untethered Soul, he will call this the seat of awareness. And so most people think, oh, I just got to get to my seat of awareness and then everything's fine. Truth be told is when you get to the seat of awareness, that's just where everything begins. And so the impact on us of coming to the seat of awareness, and again, we're going to demo this for you right now. When you get to the seat of awareness, there's a response in the body. And the response is that we are learning how to regulate or down-regulate our own nervous system and go into a rest and digest experience, what science calls a rest and digest experience. Now, so your body's at rest, but what are we digesting? Well, what we're digesting is energy, okay? And I want you to think, like, if you ate a meal, your body has to metabolize that meal and use it for energy. If you couldn't digest that meal, like if you couldn't actually digest that meal, like constipation, you are going to have discomfort in your body, and that's going to make your mind go like, uh-oh, what's going down there, and start reacting, right? And this is exactly what happens at the level of energy. We have all been, had experiences that overwhelmed us and anxious and trauma and all this kind of stuff. And so the energy kind of comes into our body and it moves, but then it gets stuck and creates discomfort. And that's what trauma is. It's like a part of you that got stuck in time. It didn't get the information that it was looking for, and it continues to try to get that information. And that's kind of the genius of the quantum physics nature of our reality, is that it actually reenacts and re-loops this trauma over and over again in different experiences in our lives, to not to harm us, but to give us an opportunity to heal it. And the reason we're not healing from these reenactments is because we're actually merged into the experience. We're merged into our conditioned mind. And so we see the experience from the conditioning. It's like an object trying to look at an object. What we need to do is actually pull back into the seat of awareness and become the objective viewer to the subject that's having the experience. Okay, so in the merge experience, it's the object looking at the object, and here we're pulling back, going into quote unquote an altered state of consciousness, pulling back into a subjective view, sitting there. And when we do that, the response of the body is to downregulate the nervous system to come into repose and to rest. And then the body can metabolize this energy. And so energy that's been bound up in the body can actually move. By the way, body does this all by itself, completely in its own intelligence. This is not some voodoo magic that Elon and I do. And there's all sorts of gifts, by the way, that come along with this in internal awareness and perception, because this, just like when you're in mindset development and you're learning to step back from the thoughts in your mind and observe them, here you're actually stepping back, we could call it further, but you're actually becoming subtly aware of energy in the body. This is very, very powerful. It's no longer aware of thought, which is just a symptom. Now it's the direct experience that the body is having that you're separating from and becoming subtly aware of energy flow in the body. And this takes you right down to the source. Okay. And here's what I mean by that. Your mind, again, is getting agitated because there's a discomfort in the body. That's what it's agitated about. If the discomfort were to leave, the mind just relaxes. And if that discomfort doesn't come back, then the mind, being the efficient tool that it is, no longer needs to run that defensive program anymore. It will just roll it back by itself, because anything that doesn't require energy, the mind will no longer. It's like the neurons that fire together, wire together. And if that neuron's not firing anymore, then the wiring gets undone. You following me? It's like it's no longer useful. So the mind recognizes that and just disconnects from that. And what we find is people get into situations in their life where they're with a spouse or significant other, whatever, some situation that they know would normally cause them stress, and it happens right in front of them. And then there's no stress here. The mind is not overreacting. The body stays safe and grounded and in well-being. And you literally go like, really? Like nothing is going to happen here? You look up at your mind, you go, you're not going to react? And the mind goes, I ain't got nothing. And that's how you know healing has happened. Healing is when you're not managing or coping. It doesn't happen anymore. And this is the power of this work. We are going not to the symptom of the mind. We're going directly to the source and what the mind is responding to. And when that source is out of the body, the response, that program, no longer has to run. So this is effortless work, because you're not learning through creating and habit forming. Although certainly that can play a role later on, because now it's like you're kind of in this new world and you want to be empowered to create a new habit. And that's where the mindset work comes in. It's like, now let's use transformative work to create new stories and new paradigms and shift how we think. But first, we got to create a clearing and a space in our system. And this, I mean that literally, creating a space and clearing in our system. And then it's easy. Like, what do we want to put there, right? Like, let's put in an empowering context here. Now let's habituate that new thing, like like a pro athlete who does something over and over again. And if that doesn't work, we can just go and clear the system again and again. So I hope you're tracking this, all right? We're downregulating the nervous system. We're helping this constrained energy move out of the body. And once that happens, the mind no longer has to be reactive, and it actually gives us space to be responsive, okay? So here's the demo. You ready? So I want you to close your eyes for a moment, if you don't mind, and just put up your right hand. You can look at the screen for a moment just to see what I'm doing, and then close your eyes again. And now, instead of looking at your hand, I want you to just place your awareness on your hand. So become aware of your hand. And as you become aware of your hand, I want you to notice what you notice about your hand. You will probably start noticing that there is an increased sense of heat, pulsing, vibration, the tickles, call it what you will. Would it be fair to call it that you're just feeling an increased sense, like sensation in the hand, like there's just more sensation in the hand? Well, however you define it, maybe it's cool, maybe it's heat, it might feel however it feels to you, but I'm looking for you to notice that as we put awareness on the hand, there's an increased sense of sensation. So maybe that's your first wow effect right there. Now I want you to know it's not a party trick, so we can put that right hand down, put up your left hand, and put your awareness now on the left hand. And notice again that as you do that, there's an increased sense of sensation in your left hand. It's not a party trick. This is real, not science fiction. This is science fact. Okay. So notice that there's more sensation in the left hand. Again, you can put that hand down and put your awareness in your left foot. And notice as you do that, that the sensation will start to increase in your left foot. Right foot. Notice how quick it is. This is at the speed of awareness. I think in the 21st century, we're going to find out that the only thing faster than the speed of light is our awareness. If I want to put my awareness on Neptune or Jupiter, boom, there's my awareness. So a few things to note about this. Number one is notice that placing your awareness, I didn't have to tell you how to do that. It was innate for you and you knew how to do it, it's natural, and that you did hopefully start noticing subtle energy in the hand simply by placing awareness there. Now, what's actually happening is you've all heard the line where your attention goes, energy flows. That's what's happening. It's like consciousness, our awareness is a magnet for energy that's moving over here. Energy is a magnet for blood flow. So we're actually getting more blood flow to the hand as well. And so if you've ever heard of like a yogi who, can heal themselves faster, this is how they're doing it. They are directing awareness to a location in their body. It's focused, it's held in compassion and love. There's more energy, there's more blood flow. So of course we have more nutrients coming to that part of the body. Naturally, that part of the body is going to heal faster. And if you can hold that awareness there, all that much faster. Okay. So why is this beneficial? So we're just going into, I want you to notice too, that when we place our awareness here, we are actually moving our awareness from local mind to space, a non-local place. Okay. And even if some of your awareness is still back here and you're thinking and trying to figure out everything I'm saying, that's fine. There might even be like a toggling between the hand and your mind, but like notice how easy it is to bring some of your awareness here, and notice you're actually unhooking and non-localizing your awareness to a different point in space-time. That's real. And if I was to, it's not too far-fetched to say that this is an altered state of consciousness. Okay. And so here's what happens. Here's how we actually get some healing. If we hold this spatial awareness, and you can be trained to do this so that it can become your normal everyday state. There's a natural resting that happens here. We call this the great void or the awakened awareness. There's lots of different names for this, right? From a lot of different cultures and practices and stuff like that. So once we come out here, we're actually going into a subjective view. And you may notice that your body actually feels more restful if you stay out here. And then what we want to do is we want to learn how to start scanning our center channel, right? This is like the chakra systems. Again, call it what you will, but this is the energy center of the body. And if I lose you at chakra systems, I want you to understand that, all the blood vessels, your nervous system, everything, it basically all comes down right through the spine, the nervous system, and collects here at the solar plexus, like kind of like where all the roots of a tree come together and then expand back out into the body. So clearly we know from basic science that we are made out of vibration and energy. It would be crazy to think that our body is somehow not adept at energy flow, and that this has a lot to do with our health as a well-being. In fact, it's very well studied and documented that trauma and the way that we set up our personality, the mind will actually then go shape the body from energy. So I can tell you that just from our study over the last 20 years or so, when I walk into a room, I can pretty much tell you people's underlying psychology and what they're dealing with, like as a difficulty, simply by the shape of their bodies, with about 80 to 90% accuracy. And the reason for that is I've studied it, and the mind does shape the body. And so when you have this body shape like Elin and I have, it yields itself to a certain type of pattern. People who are skinny and long, certain type of pattern. People who are more pear-shaped, certain type of pattern, right? Like that you can pick up on these cues very quickly. And so of course you can pick up that energy and what people say, but there's so many cues. And this again is the intelligence. And we've had clients who are, have had a lifetime of not being able to lose weight. And what you realize for a lot of people who are on like yo-yo diets like this is actually a way that their biological body creates safety. And so as they start to lose weight, the threat response in the body goes up. And then to basically pacify that, what their body does is it reaches for food and eats more, and they gain that weight back. And so it's very difficult when people say, oh my God, like I can't seem to lose this weight. Yeah, that's true, because as the weight comes down, the threat goes up. And so they got to balance that out by eating more and bringing the weight back to a place where the threat response in the body stops. For those of you guys who watch The Biggest Loser, people lose weight very quick, then they gain it back. Why? Because this hasn't changed. Even if their psychology has changed, this hasn't changed. The body is still intelligent and reacting, and it thinks the threat is still occurring. And so we got to teach the body that the threat is no longer occurring. And this is how we do it, is by metabolizing this energy. Okay. And the last part here, and this is why our programs are set up this way, I mentioned trauma being a self-to-self type of response, a self-to-other type of response, and a self-to-group. So again, some of your traumas was with other people. It was like not being seen, not being met, not being told that you're good. And so there are these practices that we do inside of our community. And it's one of the main benefits of joining our community, is that there is a global community of people doing this work who are supporting each other in showing up for each other, because our systems, and again, anybody who has a child, you've seen this for sure, is when you have a small child, they do this thing called reach and respond. They walk up to you and they put up their hands and they're looking at, mom and dad to pick them up, because what does the upset child want from the caregiver? Essentially, what a caregiver is supposed to do is teach the child how to regulate their nervous system. Let me say that again. The caregiver's job is to teach the child how to regulate their nervous system. Now, if I was in front of you, I'd ask you to raise your hand. How many of you guys lived in a house where mom and dad talked to you about how to regulate your nervous system? Big fat goose egg. No, nobody has. And so if you think about what you wanted for mom and dad, you didn't just want their presence, you wanted some kind of attunement. There was an energy you wanted them to show up in. And again, they couldn't give you that because they weren't taught that. Okay, this is where we're going through right now. We're going through this evolutionary change where people are learning how to attune to themselves and others. What I'm teaching right now is the beginning stages of learning how to attune to yourself and others. And so some of the stuff that you're going through, your system literally does not have templates how to heal, right? Like none of us have seen a divine masculine or divine feminine template. And so we actually need other people's systems to help us ground and template. And so we do these very simple exercises where we sit together in presence. And when you're going through some kind of challenge, instead of talking about it or trying to figure it out, none of that really ultimately matters. There's an experience your body is happening and it's trying to regulate itself. But to this point, it has not been able to do that because it has not found a template or a way to metabolize the energy. So in that moment, you can metabolize the energy and actually regulate your system as somebody else is attuned and in presence with you. And again, I really want to offer, this is what you were looking for as a child with your parent. Now, your parents, whether they're alive or dead, can't probably give you what you're looking for, right? Most of us live our lives trying to get this thing from our parents. What if they just can't give that to you? They don't know how. They don't do this kind of work. Here's the reality. You can go get it from other people's systems, and then you won't feel that lack and need that from your parents. Let me say it again. You can get this from other people's system. You can get the data, the experience that your system was looking for during its development with other people. And then it's resolved. And what ends up happening when we resolve these things is that our relationships naturally transform without us having to go tell people what we're doing or convince them or manipulate them to act differently so that we can feel safe, because what we're ultimately doing and the byproduct of this work is feeling more safe and having more well-being. And so when we stop playing a certain role in a relationship and we stop reenacting our trauma with other people, right? Because if you're a victim, there has to be a perpetrator. But if you come out of that reenactment and you are no longer a victim, then guess what? They no longer have to be a perpetrator. We no longer put them in that situation. We no longer train them to be that way. And I know that's kind of hard to hear because you're like, I don't make them do that. I know that's what it seems like. I grew up very much in a victim mentality. And so it looked like the world, my parents, everybody was perpetrating me. But I could tell you, as I came out of that, all that stopped because I no longer energetically, right, energetic signaling, put them in situations where they had to respond to me this way. This is really, really, really crucially important to understand about human beings' healing process, that it's critical that we get our healing within ourselves in our own practice, with sitting with others and with sitting with group, because our trauma happens at all three levels. And the way the energy went in is the way the energy needs to come out. And so we have created a litany ascension program here that deals with our ascension process and our healing process in this way. You learn how to deal with your mind, then you learn how to do your inner process, then you learn how to actually do these processes with other people at the level of other and group. And when you do that, you supercharge this whole healing experience in ways that most people have never experienced. Okay. And so this is it, guys. This is the moment. I hope this video has been very enlightening for you. If you learn how to become subtly aware of energy, how to downregulate and regulate your own nervous system, you can metabolize quote unquote trauma, really stuck energy in your body, and have your mind stop looping in psychosis and reenacting trauma from your past over and over again. And your mind will naturally become less reactive. You're going to feel more well-being and safety in your life. And I want to really offer this, that 99.99% of human society is stuck in a fight or flight response. Really, most of society is in some sort of schizophrenia, but when everybody's schizophrenic, it doesn't look like any of us are schizophrenic. And coming out of that, you're gonna be like, wow, like this is what's going on for people. Everybody, no matter how successful or unsuccessful they are in their life, no matter what's going on or what challenges, everybody wants to feel safe. Everybody wants to feel well-being, and we are not going to get there by convincing people to think, act, and feel like us. We have tried that for thousands of years. It just leads to violence and war. Ultimately, it's everybody doing their interpersonal work and feeling this safety and well-being in their system. And I want you to understand that what we call reality is really a holographic mirror of our own internal frequency. So basically what I'm saying is you are emanating a frequency from your body. This reality is set up to basically mirror that frequency in experience. So whatever experiences you're having are matching that frequency output from your body. And so most people are outwardly focused trying to change their circumstances. Our clients learn to be inwardly focused on shifting the frequency that they are, basically upgrading it through this metabolic process. And then as their frequency changes, reality, this holographic mirror, shifts to meet them. And so when you're in scarcity, overwhelm, and anxiety, guess what happens to your reality? It has to match that. So you need to see more scarcity, more things to be anxious about, more things to be scared about, right? And we see this in the news and media and corporations and all this stuff taking advantage of that fear that most people are living in, and they take action out of that fear. And energy begets energy. So if you take action from scarcity or fear, you're going to get more scarcity or fear. If you take action from lack, you're going to end up with more lack. And so we want to clear these things from the system. So I want to leave you with this question, and this to set you up with the call and then tell you what this call is for, is what ends up happening when a byproduct of doing this work is naturally feeling more safe, well-being, connection, and worthy. And now this holographic reality is mirroring those frequencies. You get more experiences that make you feel more safe, more experiences that bring in more well-being, abundance, connection. Life just gets much more effortless and easy, and it goes from surviving to truly thriving. Okay, so this call that you're going to get on, number one, please show up like Elon said, or at least have the dignity and integrity and respect to let that person know that they don't have to, waste their time on a call that's never going to happen, because our time is our most valuable asset. That's number one. Number two, we don't sell you anything on this call unless you beg us to. Unless you're like, I absolutely want to join a program right now, they can help and support you with that. But the intention of this call is to help you get grounded in what this work is, relax, and actually feel for yourself if you want to be here. It would be stupid to do this work if you don't want to do this work. And it would be equally as stupid if you want to do this work to not figure out a way to do it. Because this is not something that's going to pay off in the next, just for another week or for the next month. This will change the trajectory of your life and probably of those around you. So the return on investment here is lifelong. It's not something you get back for the next few days. This is going to change the quality of your life forever until you take your last breath. And again, probably the relationships in your life will be touched, moved, and inspired in ways that it's hard to imagine right now from probably where you're sitting. And so what you want to get from this call is you want to ultimately choose whether you are a yes to doing this work. Even if you feel like you don't have the finances right now, ultimately we say, hey, at least let yourself feel the yes. At least let yourself feel getting excited. We have programs, payment plans, ways for you to get financing from our partners, all sorts of ways that you can do this program for probably a lot less than you really think it costs. Even our very high-end programs, even for coaches and consultants that want to build their skill set and want to do business development, we have all sorts of stuff for you guys to play with. And so really come have a conversation. That's the bottom line. And then choose for yourself whether this is for you or not, and leave that conversation at the very least with, yes, I want to do this work, and letting yourself sit with that. And then you can come and talk to and set up another call after that and actually learn about the programs, how they're delivered, time, investment, all that other stuff. We